to the mere mention of Clark's name as far as getting the message out there. And you see that once again through the quotes here. This is what Napheesa had to say. The amount of money that Caitlin Clark has made the league is insane, and she's getting 0% of it because we have no revenue share. She gets less than $80,000 a year, and she's bringing in like hundreds of millions of dollars. Insane. And yes, that is insane. This is all a little bit more complicated than it seems on the surface, of course. I brought this up before. The ownership pie.
She said it. The amount of money Caitlin Clark has made this league is insane, and she's getting 0% of it. Zero. Less than $80,000 a year, while bringing in hundreds of millions. Napheesa Collier didn't just speak. She ignited a wildfire, dragging Clark's name into a brutal WNBA pay and injury scandal that now threatens to rip the entire league apart. This wasn't just about salaries, it was about the very soul of women's basketball, exposed for the world to see. As Collier snapped against Commissioner Cathy Engelbert, the battle lines are drawn, and Clark is at the epicenter of a financial earthquake. This is just the beginning of a massive breakdown that everyone thought was coming, but nobody was truly prepared for.
The WNBA, the gift that keeps on giving. I have got to touch on this story. I've been traveling all day. I can't wait to get back to my studio so I can really wild out and get to doing what I do. But in the meantime, between time, we are going to address this whole Napheesa Collier continuing to blast Cathy Engelbert. She's not stopping. It's not over. Now she's name dropping Caitlin Clark again. And I'm starting to think this is becoming like for your own personal gain. You know what I mean? I'm very aware, like the WNBA called the WNBPA out. And
Collier's brazen attack wasn't her first jab at Commissioner Engelbert. Remember that initial feud? Engelbert Chimenjelder allegedly claimed Clark's massive endorsements were simply a product of the WNBA's existing platform, a statement Engelbert vehemently denied. This isn't just about current pay, it's a deeply personal, ongoing power struggle between key figures, escalating with every public comment. Collier has a history of calling out the league's top brass, making this latest outburst a calculated move rather than a spontaneous reaction. The groundwork for this confrontation was laid long ago, and now it's boiling over into unprecedented public drama. What started as whispers has become a full-blown war, with Clark unwittingly caught in the crossfire as a potent weapon.
Napheesa Collier sure knows how to make her WNBA pay points. Just reference Caitlin Clark. She obviously did that in the midst of her feud with Commissioner Cathy Engelbert, claiming that Engelbert said Clark's endorsements were a result of the WNBA platform. Of course, Engelbert denies that. Collier has brought Clark up again, this as part of the Glamour WNBA series. And in this case, Collier's talking about the insane pay that Clark gets from the WNBA relative to the money that she's bringing in. Obviously, Clark is the best example to use because no one is driving more views, more attendance.
Why Caitlin Clark? Because she is the undeniable lightning rod for attention, views, attendance, and revenue. Collier uses her name because it's the most effective way to highlight the WNBA's glaring absence of revenue sharing. Players currently get little to none of the massive profits they generate, and Clark's unique impact puts this issue under a microscope like never before. Her numbers are irrefutable proof that the system is broken, especially when compared to her modest rookie salary. This isn't just about fairness, it's about a fundamental imbalance that could shatter player morale and public trust in the league's financial integrity.
Becoming like for your own personal gain. You know what I mean? I'm very aware, like the WNBA called the WNBPA out and saying you guys have been lying about negotiations and about offers. It's a lot going on, and I'm just questioning, is Napheesa Collier doing this for the betterment of the WNBA or for her own personal gain and unrivaled? We're going to break this down. Welcome to Keep the Vision. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the channel, hit that bell notification. Let's get it. Let's rock, man. Let's rock. You know how we do. Okay. We had Minnesota Lynx superstar Napheesa.
But the ownership pie in the WNBA is notoriously complex, far from a simple 50-50 split. The NBA holds a huge stake, WNBA team owners have their portions, and a significant chunk belongs to private investors who injected crucial capital during leaner times. This intricate web makes demands for revenue sharing incredibly complicated. Clark's arrival sparking this league explosion ironically further muddies the waters. While she's generating unprecedented wealth, the league's financial architecture wasn't built for this sudden renaissance, creating a major headache for all parties trying to divvy up the new riches. It's a gold rush with too many hands already in the pot.
Relative to the money that she's bringing in. Obviously, Clark is the best example to use because no one is driving more views, more attendance, or more revenue. So when you look at her salary and you make the argument about revenue sharing, which the WNBA players are not getting any or much of, then you start to see where that's crystallized. And Collier's smart enough to realize that sort of, credibility or that sort of impact carries over to the mere mention of Clark's name as far as getting the message out there. And you see that once again through the quotes here.
The battle cry echoes, pay us what you owe her, yet the league might argue the surge is disproportionately tied to one player. If the WNBA were to argue against collective player demands, they'd use Clark's singular impact to suggest the overall player value isn't as high. This raises a critical question. How sustainable is the current boom if it relies so heavily on a single star? It's a delicate balance, where the league fears setting a precedent for individual super salaries, potentially undermining team economics and broader player negotiation. The league's survival hinges on demonstrating depth beyond one name.
Let's get it. Let's rock, man. Let's rock. You know how we do. Okay. We had Minnesota Lynx superstar Napheesa Collier blasting Cathy Engelbert once again here in Glamour magazine. Napheesa Collier was quoted saying, "The amount of money that Caitlin Clark has made this league is insane. She's getting 0% of it because we have no revenue share. She gets less than $80,000 a year and she's bringing in like hundreds of millions of dollars. It's insane." Now, on the
players, however, have a potent counter-argument. League ratings soared across the board this year, even when Clark was sidelined with injuries for significant stretches. This proves the WNBA's growth isn't solely dependent on one player. She's a catalyst, yes, but the league itself is building broader appeal. A healthy league, as the commissioner herself has often invoked, must thrive beyond a single superstar. This collective growth argument is vital for players to push back against the one-player show narrative, asserting that rising tides lift all boats, not just one.
They needed it because this renaissance or this, league explosion is a relatively new phenomenon. Now, a lot of that came from Caitlin Clark, which also complicates things if you're being fair about the analysis. I joke those pay us what you owe us shirts could say pay us what you owe her. And that is part of, the argument that I could see coming up in this is how sustainable is all of this versus how much of it is based on one player. Because if I'm the league, I would be arguing against the players as a whole based on the value of the one player. Now,
Napheesa Collier isn't just an athlete, she's a shrewd businesswoman. As a co-founder of Unrivaled, a direct competitor to the WNBA, she and her team have reportedly tried to recruit Caitlin Clark. They intimately understand Clark's market value, which they know far exceeds that of any other player. This deep-seated knowledge transforms her public statements into potent negotiating tactics. It's not just a player speaking out, it's a rival league executive leveraging unparalleled star power to highlight systemic flaws, potentially benefiting her own venture, while challenging the WNBA's existing model. The stakes are much higher than mere advocacy.
Caitlin Clark first. Why did Caitlin Clark find out when the rest of us did? I don't like that. I think that's shady. I think that's shady. And I also question if you would have went and just tore apart the officiating and all that, had you not gotten hurt, because we watched Caitlin Clark get beat to hell for 2 years and none of y'all said nothing. None of y'all said nothing. So I'm just kind of questioning the moral behind it. And we know you have, bro, you can slice it, dice it any way you want. You have a competitor league. You have a competitor league, Napheesa. And that's just the real. But on the base,
You can argue about using a fellow player as a public pawn, but Collier's strategy is undeniably effective. Her comments mentioning Clark don't just grab headlines, they force a direct, uncomfortable comparison between Clark's incredible revenue generation and her WNBA salary. It's a transaction so stark, so undeniable, that no one can dismiss Collier's words as mere rhetoric. This strategic name-dropping ensures her message about pay disparity resonates powerfully, reaching a wider audience and making it impossible for the league to ignore the stark financial realities she's illuminating. The truth hits harder when tied to an icon.
Player, because if I'm the league, I would be arguing against the players as a whole based on the value of the one player. Now, the players as a whole can start to point to the other numbers, the fact that the ratings this year went up across the board, even though Clark was injured for a large portion of it, and a healthy league. I mean, I hate that Cathy Engelbert would always invoke the idea of Caitlin Clark getting hurt in her interviews, but the premise of it is correct, that like a healthy league beyond right now is predicated on more than one player. You know, the player is the catalyst for it. And I think Caitlin.
But is Collier truly fighting for the WNBA's betterment, or is this primarily for her own personal gain with Unrivaled? Many are questioning her motives. The league has been accused of lying about negotiation offers, adding another layer of distrust. It creates an unsettling scenario. Is Collier genuinely championing player rights, or strategically using this platform to elevate her rival league and potentially poach talent? The line between advocacy and business strategy becomes incredibly blurred, making fans wonder whose side she's truly on, and what the ultimate endgame really is. This ambiguity casts a shadow over her powerful message.
slice it, dice it any way you want. You have a competitor league. You have a competitor league, Napheesa. And that's just the real. But on the basis of this, yes, it is absolutely ridiculous that Caitlin Clark is bringing in all of this money, hundreds of millions of dollars, and she's making 80 grand a year. It's a joke. It's a joke. And it's stuff like this that makes me say, hey, Project B or whatever it is, Caitlin Clark, go get you $50 million a year from them. Go get you $100 million a year. Go get it because you deserve it. You bring it in. So there has to be a better deal in line. But the moral behind what Napheesa.
A particularly shady aspect highlighted by critics, why did Caitlin Clark find out about these blistering public comments at the same time as everyone else? Why wasn't she approached directly by Collier first? This lack of private communication, combined with the public spectacle, raises eyebrows. It suggests that the primary goal might not have been a collegial discussion with Clark, but rather to maximize public pressure and media impact. The optics of blindsiding a fellow player, even for a supposedly good cause, fuel suspicions about Collier's true intentions and the ethics of her campaign.
Beyond right now is predicated on more than one player. You know, the player is the catalyst for it. And I think Caitlin Clark, and I've made this point 100 times too, her legacy gets stronger if the league goes on to become this huge thing. Like, you don't go back to the NBA and say, you know, after Magic and Bird left, it all fell apart. Or after Michael left, it all fell apart. Some people will say that, but it's still there. It's been around a long time. There have been other stars who have come along, Shaq and Kobe and LeBron and Steph Curry. And that is the transformative hope here. And I think you've already seen it to a certain degree where...
Furthermore, the moral argument against Collier gains traction when considering past inaction. Critics point out that when Caitlin Clark was getting the hell fouled out of her for 2 years, almost none of these outspoken players, including Collier, said a word. Yet, suddenly, after Collier sustains an injury, she's tearing apart the officiating and the league's broader issues. This perceived selective outrage, tied to personal circumstance rather than consistent advocacy, makes many question the sincerity of her current crusade. It feels less about justice and more about a convenient moment to strike.
$1 million a year. Go get it because you deserve it. You bring it in. So there has to be a better deal in line. But the moral behind what Napheesa Collier is doing, I just questioning some, bro, because you're not trying to get a deal done. The deadline is less than what? The deadline 4 days away, you guys. We got 4 days to get a deal done. and they are not even looking at the WNBA's offers. The WNBA came out and blasted the WNBPA. Like, what are we talking about here? They're not trying to actually get a deal done. So are you using this?
The competitor league, unrivaled, remains a constant, undeniable factor in this unfolding drama. Collier's involvement with a direct rival inherently complicates her role as a WNBA player advocate. Every statement she makes about WNBA pay and conditions can be interpreted as an attempt to drive interest in potential recruits to unrivaled. This duality of roles creates a profound conflict of interest, fueling suspicions that her public blasts are less about genuine negotiation and more about undermining the existing league while simultaneously building her own. It's a high-stakes chess match for talent and narrative control.
And with Unrivaled, they know they've been trying to get Caitlin Clark. They try to get Caitlin Clark. They know that her value exceeds the value of every other player. And it is good negotiating. You can say whatever you want about using Clark as a pawn in the game. And I don't know if Stephanie White was referring to Napheesa Collier specifically when she made that point, but it is a good point or a good tactic from Fee to bring up Clark, because not only do her comments get more attention, but they're more effective because you can't look at that, specific one-to-one transaction on face value.
The urgency of the situation is paramount, yet a deal seems further away than ever. With a critical deadline reportedly just 4 days out, the players are allegedly not even looking at the WNBA's offers. This suggests a complete breakdown in negotiations, with one side seemingly unwilling to compromise. Is this a genuine impasse, or is the public blasting, fueled by Clark's name, designed to create maximum leverage, or perhaps even sabotage any potential agreement? The refusal to engage with offers points to a deeper strategic play, leaving the WNBA's future hanging precariously in the balance.
Be real, and it's funny how everybody was on the, it's not just Caitlin, it's Me Too thing. It's all of us, but when y'all trying to get paid, now y'all keep name dropping her. Now y'all keep name dropping her when it's time to try to get paid. When the fact of the matter is she was the one driving the numbers in the first place. And we told y'all that. And y'all got mad. We've been telling y'all it ain't because of no Asia. It ain't because of it ain't because of none of that. None of that. It is solely because of the numbers that Caitlin Clark is bringing in. Point blank, period. And y'all been in denial. But now when you're trying to get what you want and get leverage and all of this stuff, you are using.
The narrative has certainly shifted. Initially, many players and media personalities downplayed Clark's individual impact, insisting, it's not just Caitlin, it's all of us. Yet, now that the pay negotiations are heating up, Clark's name is dropped repeatedly, almost exclusively, when discussing why players deserve more money. This pivot reveals an undeniable truth. Despite earlier denials, they now openly acknowledge her unique value as a negotiating tool. It's a stark admission that Clark is, in fact, the primary driver of the numbers they're using to demand higher salaries. The facts speak louder than initial rhetoric.
That is insane. This is all a little bit more complicated than it seems on the surface, of course. I brought this up before. The ownership pie in the WNBA is not clear-cut. It's not like you get half the pie, we get half the pie, because the NBA has such a large ownership portion, as do the WNBA owners, as does a fairly significant portion of private investors who helped give the league a capital boost when it really needed it. Because this renaissance or this, league explosion is a relatively new phenomenon. Now, a lot of that came from Caitlin.
Adding to the chaos, a separate but critical scandal is now rocking the league. Injury reporting. The NBA has reportedly informed its 30 teams that it's reviewing policies regarding injury reporting, training, and education of personnel. This comes amidst widespread concerns about transparency. It's not just about player safety, it's about the integrity of the game. Especially with the rise of legal sports betting, shady injury disclosures could lead to manipulation and tarnish the league's legitimacy, prompting a major overhaul in how player health information is managed and shared with the public. A deeper rot is being exposed.
Per memo obtained by the NBA. So I keep telling you guys, this is bigger than this is more than just the gambling. Obviously, that is something they want to make sure they have eyes over and that they monitor and they don't allow to happen to tarnish the legitimacy of these games in all sports. But the injury reporting also is a part of this. And we know how shady the WNBA was when it came to being honest about the injuries of players on this team. Not even just Caitlin Clark, Damiris Dantas, Chloe Bibby. Chloe Bibby injuries seem worse.
The WNBA's past record on injury reporting is already under intense scrutiny. Beyond Caitlin Clark, players like Damiris Dantas and Chloe Bibby had injuries that seemed far worse than what the Indiana Fever in particular publicly claimed. This pattern of alleged dishonesty has created a crisis of trust. The Indiana Fever are definitely going to be one of the teams facing intense scrutiny during this NBA-led review. Fans and players deserve honesty about health, and the league's perceived shadiness in this area further erodes confidence, making the entire WNBA landscape feel unstable and untrustworthy. Amidst all this, Caitlin Clark continues to navigate her rookie season, recently appearing at a Lily event alongside Kelsey Mitchell and Ari McDonald. These appearances highlight her enduring marketability and her commitment to team activities, despite being caught in the crossfire of this pay dispute. Looking ahead, the Indiana Fever's 2026 backcourt might feature Clark and Mitchell, with McDonald as a potential backup, as Ari has seemingly won over the coaching staff. While the league battles, Clark quietly builds her brand and future, proving her focus remains on the game itself despite the surrounding storm. This entire saga, Collier's fierce accusations, Clark's undeniable impact, the shady league practices, and the looming financial showdown is shaping the WNBA's future in real time. It's a painful but necessary reckoning, forcing questions about player value, revenue equity, and organizational transparency. Whether this leads to a stronger, more equitable league or further division remains to be seen. But one thing is clear, the WNBA can never go back to what it was. The silence has been broken. The truth is out, and the future of women's basketball will be forged in the flames of this unprecedented confrontation.